Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Let's do it. Let's join the magic.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
And my name is Tom Ryman.
And then do I say my name? My name is Adam Brown. Adam
You
Todd
did it.
Brown.
And we just watched... What did we watch? Avatar. The Way of Water.
Yeah!
Avatar Dose.
It's down, right? That's The Way of Water.
The Way of Water? I don't know. It's like, I also think
Down.
you could also could also be like water's mood. Like that's
Yeah,
just
that's
water's
true.
way.
That's fair.
Pandora. This is our home. The humans are returning. They're hunting us.
Why do you come to us? We cannot let you bring your war here.
I'm a warrior like you. I'm supposed to fight.
You do not know the sea. We will learn your ways.
This is our home!
I need you with me. And I need you to be strong. Strong-hearted.
Listen. Adam, hi. Thanks for
Hi.
being on.
Thank you for having me. I finally watched Avatar. I had never, ever seen the first Avatar. That's the one I was supposed to watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can just talk about the
totally.
Go to the
2009's
movies.
Avatar. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes for a good podcast.
Yeah, I know. I'm very glad we had you on. I didn't know you hadn't seen the first Avatar when asking you to watch this, the second Avatar, after, what is it, 14 years?
Yeah, it's-
The sequel.
13.
13. Yeah.
And my goodness, it's finally happened.
It's
We've been
finally
waiting
upon
for it
us.
for a long
Avatar
time.
Day is here. Bells are ringing. People are throwing their
so
babies
pumped.
out of the window,
I guess, okay, Adam,
setting our
are there
clothes
a few
on
things?
fire.
I guess my first question is, so you just watched the first Avatar. Any thoughts on the first Avatar?
You know, I disliked it about as much as I expected to.
Right.
I was not into it. Here's the thing. They're fake, so it's okay for me to say this. I don't like the way those things look.
The Na'vi.
Yeah, it just it puts me off. And
Sure.
that had put me off the entire franchise. Like the minute I saw the trailer for the first Avatar, I was like, nope, I'm out.
It's a tough hurdle to get over.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
fair.
it's like you see E.T., you're like, nope.
Oh, yeah,
That's-
he's even worse.
He's not coming in my house, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
he's gross.
It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, obviously. I mean, it's the highest grossing film of all time. It has
Sure.
to have its
Mhm.
merits, but I wasn't super duper into the first one. I should
So,
confirm for the audience, I am joking. I did watch the second one.
Right, they all turn it off.
yeah. So that's my next question for both of you is, how did you like Avatar: The Way of Water?
Dave, let me tell you, it was almost too much adventure and excitement for one skull. Like, my mind was blasted out of the back of my skull and my ears. No, it was fine. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
For me, the first half is a lot like the first Avatar movie, and I was just not that into it. And then that last half, though, like once all the war stuff starts at the end, I was way into it. Like,
Yeah.
way into it.
It's pretty sweet. But yeah, I do.
Yeah.
The first half is a little bit like James Cameron is setting up all of his toys. Like he's getting
Yeah.
all his toys in the right position, and then the last 90 minutes are just him smashing those things together, and it's great.
Yeah, for sure. The action is great in this. I'm aggressively on the side of it was fine.
Yeah.
I think there was plot wise. I think it was actually kind of bad plot wise. I think there was some stuff that at least didn't feel like it made sense. I feel like it's way too long. I feel like it's kind of just repeating the first movie, but on a smaller scale. It doesn't like there's some things that don't quite add up. The action is very good.
Yeah.
But the actual plot itself, I thought, was just like, really? After 13 years, it's this again. Because it's just, the humans are back, and it's more war.
And they're here to stay, which I thought that was a good way to escalate it, I suppose.
I guess, but also they're here to stay, but that's what they thought the first movie, right?
Well, they kicked him off the planet at the end of the first movie, and in this movie we get like a couple of minutes of prologue, and then the humans show back up, and we flash forward a year, and they've set up bases and colonies, the whaling operations all over. They've annexed areas of Pandora.
Yes.
I like the part in the beginning where they kind of Valkyrie it with the Na'vi language.
Yeah,
where he's just like, I've been listening so long now, it just sounds like English. It's like, fuck your language. We're doing all English now.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Yeah, I guess it is an escalation in the sense that in the first one it was a small colony that was kicked off, and now the humans came back in full force is the idea.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels like of course I guess that would happen. And then in order for that to
they were gonna stay gone. There's trillions of dollars and apparently immortal whale brain juice at stake on the table. So they weren't going to stay gone.
The whale stuff felt like it came out of nowhere. Let me tell you, there's some stuff in this that I don't know, man. First of all, it also the timetable doesn't make too much sense so they bring back Stephen Lang. And what we learn is that they recorded his brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the events of the end of the last one. And as someone online pointed out, the journey takes 40 years to get from Earth to Pandora. And they say that they have to bring his brain back to Earth to process it. They specifically say that. So right away, none of that makes any sense. Because it means that they had to take 40 years to go back and then come back. And even that means that even if they their star travel got better, still at the time of the first movie, it was a 40-year journey. So that's weird.
It was? Man, I don't remember that.
It's a long ass journey.
Yeah. I don't think I thought about the early part of this movie that hard. Because you're right that it's this essentially the same plot from the first movie, but water.
Yeah. And it has some, and I would argue that the characters are a little weird. Jake Sully at the beginning, because this was what I was confused about. This is that so the humans show up, and then they're we're gonna go after Jake Sully, and they show him sabotaging a train, right? And so the idea seemed to be it's fucking on,
fuck that.
And
train,
then Jake
man.
Sully,
Awesome.
and then when they go after Jake Sully, he's I don't want war. I'm leaving, and it was but you sabotaged that train earlier. Is that not you wanting war? There was a little I got I guess I'm saying the opening, all the setup is really sweaty to me, and really weird and confusing, of what people want and what exactly how any of it worked, and then ultimately the movie is somewhat smaller scale than the first Avatar when you think about what's at stake. It's just one boat.
It very much is. It kind of it drills down to being about Jake just protecting his family rather than the fate of all Pandora.
Right.
It's a pretty simple revenge idea this time around, and it's more.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to like the family dynamic as much as I did. It introduces he's got 1 billion kids. He's got 4 or 5 kids. Oh shit, this is a lot of exactly the same looking blue people to keep track of.
Right.
But,
so spoilers, when one of the son dies, I didn't know who that was.
Oh, I did at that point in the movie. I knew who that was. Yeah.
Okay, I was I'm not sure which son that is.
But so to finish the thought, I really liked that decision because it's sort of, we get a couple of new characters that each have their own kind of thing. Like you have the younger brother who's the outcast and he keeps getting himself into trouble and he keeps disappointing Jake. And then he's the one that makes this special bond with the outcast whale and ends up having to, like, he keeps fucking up and ends up saving the day in the end. I liked that. I liked that the Sigourney Weaver teen, I think her name is Kiri, has like this weird connection with like the world spirit and can communicate with the animals. I thought that was a cool idea. I even liked the human kid, the stupid human stupid white kid with dreadlocks.
The guy,
but
the guy who looks and
Yeah.
named like a drug dealer.
Yeah, he totally 100% looks like he deals drugs at a freshman dormitory. But I liked his story. Like, I liked his sort of thing. I liked that he had that dynamic where Jake sort of wanted to take him in, but I don't remember what Zoe Saldana's character's name is. But she's
not in it that much.
Yeah, she really isn't. I assume maybe she'll be in the sequels more, but she's like still like really anti-human. She's like, fuck all these people. So even though like Spider's like this orphan kid, she's sort of like the Stark, whatever her name was, that hated Jon Snow. She's like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want you here.
Yeah.
So he goes and has his weird little kind of dad arc with Stephen Lang's clone. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I agree that the opening, for the sake of efficiency, is confusing. Because it's like, well, who are all these people? And then we're coming into the middle of like, I guess we're supposed to assume that Jake is, as the leader of the forest tribe, has been just continuing like raids on all of the military's like trains and supply chains and stuff like that. So now they're finally targeting his family specifically. And that's what like freaks him out. But it is there's a lot of information that's done quickly as I think it decently efficiently, but it was like I wasn't really able to like identify the different members of the family, like the different characters, until like an hour into the movie. Like it took a lot of build up for me to like, okay, that's this character, and they do have like identifiable personalities in ones. It just takes a while to get there.
Yeah, I think it's really just first half of this movie is really rough to me, and it makes me think, because I agree with you, Tom, there's a lot of good ideas in this. I like a lot of the ideas. I think this is a weird thing, but like he might need to make a TV show. Like I think that's what he maybe should have done with Avatar, because it feels like for a almost 3 hour long film,
he made a TV show. He just put it all together into one
Dark Angel.
movie. I mean, this was 3 hours and 20 minutes.
It was a long movie.
Yeah, and it still felt like they were scrambling to like I guess the first cut of this was 9 hours, which isn't unusual, but I'm guessing like there's a lot that had to be crammed. It just it's mainly the first half. It's the moment it starts, it felt abrupt to me. Does it feel abrupt to you guys where it was like, all right, we're on Pandora and I'm going to narrate and all these very dramatic things are happening in like a matter of minutes where you're like, oh my God, slow down, where it's like the humans are landing and killing everything and causing these. And it's just like, okay, we're yada-yadaing a lot of dramatic stuff to tell this like much smaller, quicker story that takes place so much longer after the first Avatar. It just really felt like it really felt rushed at first, and weird and awkward.
This movie reminded me a whole lot of Titanic. Like,
yeah, I mean, there is a boat that sinks.
Well, not just that there's a boat, but you're just kind of waiting for something to happen with that boat, or something to happen with those fucking whales, or anything. And once it all starts happening, it's so much fun. I loved it so much. I just
the fucking whales.
I don't know that. Like, I wish the last half of this movie was the movie. Like, I would have just taken that.
I think they could have. It's so hard because it's like, okay, if you're gonna yada yada some of it, you might as well yada yada some of the other stuff too. Like I would argue like all the stuff where they have to go. So the plot, for people who are wondering, is the humans come back. They're waging war. Jake Sully is fighting. He has a family now. These are all like huge things that, again, they sort of like just happen. Stephen Lang is back. he is an avatar. I guess his memories were implanted.
Yep.
And
a bunch
then
of
Grace,
a bunch of other soldiers too.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver, her dead body got pregnant and had a baby, and that's the new Sigourney Weaver. And they're making it a mystery where they're like, who's the father? Where'd that come from? I assume she's like Jesus. She's Pandora Jesus,
Yeah,
right?
they set up some idea. Well, they didn't necessarily set it up, but they sort of planted the idea in the first film where they connect her to the tree to like try to save her, but she dies anyway. But she sort of gets like absorbed by the tree. So I assume that'll have something
the tree
to do with
jizzes
it.
in her.
Yeah, the tree just comes her right out, just blasts her out.
And a lot of like big ideas, which I assume a lot of this will be answered in the future. Like, there's nothing wrong with them not answering that question in this one because they're clearly going to make more, assuming this one does well, which I'm sure it will.
The thing for me along those lines was the whale serum.
The whale shit.
Once they extracted that from the whale
juice,
I was like, this could be like, let's just follow that tangent. Tell me more about
that's okay.
Who's using that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. Is that once the whales are introduced, it feels more like a movie, which is like this is a more self-contained, smaller movie about. But like in order to do that, they needed to explain the whales more because the whales just show up. The bullies take the kid out. And he's getting attacked, and then he gets saved by a whale, and then he's like talking to the whale, and I was like, oh, that's cute. He has like a special relationship, and then they're all talking to whales, and I was like, wait a second.
In Soviet Pandora, whale saves you.
And the thing is, like in the previous movies, they never introduced the concept that animals are like smart enough to communicate. So like it felt like the whales came out of nowhere. And then once you get into the whales, you're like, okay, I like this whale shit. But it almost feels like that's how the movie should have opened. It should have opened by being like this feels like it should have been like the fourth Avatar movie, if that makes sense. Where it has to front load with like, okay, humans are back. They're here. They're walking around. But the movie's not actually about that. It's about these whales. And it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot to have to dump on an audience at first.
Yeah, there's a lot of world building that's front loaded in this. I do feel like the length is justified because I didn't notice it as much because like I said, I enjoyed the family dynamic more than I expected to. So I was invested in seeing what was happening to those characters and seeing them get acclimated into the water clan with Cliff Curtis as their chief. Yeah, that's fun.
But again, the problem is that it's literally the same plot. It's so funny because the first Avatar people were like, it's like Pocahontas, it's like Dances with Wolves. This one, it's just like the first Avatar where they do you have to learn their ways. You're an outsider. They do all the same beats again. Plus the whales.
I found it less annoying this time around. Like there's a lot of like white savior energy to the first Avatar.
100%, yeah.
Isn't as present with this one. Like all the interactions, it's at least between just like two different versions of Na'vi people as opposed to like
it's more like clan politics.
Yeah. And I did like that. Like in general, I liked this better than Avatar 1, but all the world building stuff I thought worked better.
I definitely like this movie better than Avatar 1. I think this movie's kind of a mess narratively in that it's trying to do so much that it feels like it yada yadas several movies before getting to the movie it wants to tell, because James Cameron is obsessed with the ocean. And so he wants to get to the ocean.
He wants to drink it. He wants to drink it all.
Right. And so he has to world build all over again. That's what it feels like. Like the first Avatar begins with like, okay, there's this planet, it's called Pandora, we're humans, we're going there, here's the deal. And you accept that because it's like it's a world building, and then that one ends with, and the humans are gone. And this one, they have to kind of just start all over again, be like, okay, so we're back in Pandora, and the humans are there, but this time it's that, and now we have a family, and they're this age, and this many years have passed, and it's like, all right, settle down. But it's all it feels like he just is sort of like remaking Avatar, the first one.
I disagree. I think he's expanding it. I mean, like he has to do all that front loading in the beginning to sort of catch us up to speed, explain who these characters are and how have sort of like I mean, it is fast forwarding, but it's like we get a quick idea of how Jake is acclimating and assimilating, how his family is coming to be, who his family is, and the threat of the humans has changed. So that's sort of like, because the humans are no longer here to get unobtainium.
Right.
They're here to terraform. They're doing the Elon shit. They're like, our Earth is dying. We got to come live here. And I love that Edie Falco was the general in charge.
Oh yeah, she was
Yes.
drinking a coffee in her mech. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was an unexpected surprise.
Yeah, I didn't know she was in it.
Falco popping up in this. Like, what?
Mother of Christ, Camilla. But yeah, so I think that stuff is sort of like hitting the reset button, but it's changing the parameters a little bit, and then he has that in place so that the world can be expanded a bit. We can see, because all we saw in the first was like I just assumed every Na'vi was a forest tribe watching the first movie. So when they do this one, it's like, oh no, there's actually completely different cultures. Here's the water tribe. They look different, like they have webbed sort of arms and they have webbed tails.
Yeah, that was cool.
And they're like, their whole society is similar, but so they still have like a heart tree or whatever they called it. But also their society is different. It's all dependent on these whales and their relationship with these whales. And the whales are like super sentient beings that create art, and it's like really wild. So I'm pushing back a little bit on it's just a stone cold remake. Yeah, he does reset a bunch of the pieces, but like I think it's in order to expand the world.
It does expand the world for sure, but it's a remake in the sense of the story beats that they're going for. I just think there's a lot of like, it's just messy. Like, for example, hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't do any of the prologue, right? You start with Jake Sully and you front load it with he has a family now and he's happy and all of that. Just front load it with that. Like, here are his kids. You do a couple scenes about that. Have one of his kids find evidence or hear something about the humans are on another part of the world. And it's like Jake Sully it's Jaws 2 essentially, where some people are like, no, they're not back. Some people are like, they're back. And you have it be that, oh, they're on the other side of the world. Now they're doing this whaling shit. And you have them like go to find out. And that's how you introduce it. It just felt like a lot of like...
Well, but that's not the story he was telling. Like, the story he was telling was the whole, like, Jake's arc is about, like, I have to protect my family, so that's why we're packing up and running, and that's his disagreement with Zoe Saldana, where it's like, no, like, we were supposed to protect all the people. And he's like, no, our family is our fortress or whatever. He says, like, that's his whole idea. It's like, we got to keep the family alive, so that's why he's on the run. But then sort of he comes around to, like, yeah, we have to fight in order to protect the family. But like,
you do that with Zoe Saldana being like, we have to go fight, and Jake being like, we have to stay here. It's not our business. It's not near us. All that stuff, and you can still have that dynamic. It just feels like they did a lot of messy work to get us to the same spot. Because ultimately, James Cameron just wants fucking water Avatar, right? That's what he wants.
Yeah, I mean with the whales, for me, I actually thought added something to this movie. Like, they were kind of...
The whales were cool.
Goofy, but... And it didn't make sense. Like, how did they talk to them? Like, I guess I don't have to have everything explained, I guess, but...
It's one of those things that, like... It just... Like, there's a lot of those things where... That's a big offer, and it's once you realize the rules, once you're like, okay, the whales are smart, they can talk to them, it makes sense, but it's such a weird that they just sort of start talking to them, and you're just like, huh,
yeah,
I guess they can talk to these whales. That wasn't a thing with any of the other animals, but I guess they can talk to these whales. And the movie just moves on, and it feels a lot of like, they front load it with a lot of information and then omit a lot of other information that's, I'm sure, is in a cut of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, who was the first person to discover they could talk to those whales?
Yeah.
Like, I need to know that. That I would like to know. I want a whale prequel.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Since there's going to be 35 of these movies anyway.
Yeah. Make one of them entirely whale. Just it's all in whale.
Make it a Disney Plus series about the whales.
It's just in clicks and whistles.
So a comparison I think I can make here is if we jumped from the first Star Wars to the seventh Star Wars and like had to explain everything in between. That's how this felt to me. Does that make sense? Where
I think it feels more like the move from the first Star Wars to the second Star Wars.
It felt like so much more happened that like they could have spent a movie or two on between Avatar 1 and where we start in this one.
Yeah.
Or when we really get going, I mean.
But see, I also don't know if I want that.
Yeah, because that's just like
I agree.
Jake watching his kids grow up and like I mean, I'm sure that's nice for him. That was a nice time, but I don't really need to see Boyhood on Pandora.
Yeah, the family dynamic I liked, but also when the kid died, when they come back around to that, I was like, oh yeah, their kid died.
Right.
I'm not proposing a movie about Pandora. I'm saying that like it's the war stuff, the humans getting back, them building a city, all that. It feels like the first movie was specifically about this immediate pushback.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and they're back, and we just let them build the city, and a year passed. And like that year that passes, that they yada yada over, that they do 1 year later, that's where I felt like that felt like it could have been another movie.
I think I read something where that is going to be a separate piece of media.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I think maybe a comic, but there is going to be something that's like that. As I do remember seeing an interview earlier this week where Cameron said that title card is like a whole other story, and it'll be in some sort of media. I think.
Yeah, that's
pretty sure.
That's interesting.
But yeah, it's sort of like I do see that. But he didn't want to tell that story in this movie for whatever reason.
He really didn't. Yeah.
So he's just like, no, I want to get the family to the point where they're back sort of doing rebel raids on the humans, and now they've been targeted, so he's got to go on the run with his family. Like that's the movie he wanted to tell.
Yeah. Oh no, it's the movie he wanted to tell, and I like the ocean stuff. It just definitely felt like it wasn't the next natural progression in the actual story.
I don't know about that, because going into this movie, I had no fucking clue what to expect, because I couldn't conceive of what Avatar 2 would be.
Yeah,
other than just the humans coming back. It's like, well, obviously they're going to come back. There's way too much money on the table.
Yeah.
So I had like no expectation for what this story was going to be. I was just like, okay, well, let's just see what he came up with. So I don't know. What do you feel like the natural progression would have been?
I don't know. I here's what I'll say, because I'm with you with that, where I'm not entirely sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Manhattan.
more of like
Manhattan, yeah.
Space.
Oh, I want them to go to Earth so bad.
Yeah. Get the
I will say that like it's more of like the more I think about this film, the more I think that the back end is so much better than the front end. Because the back end has so much promise about where the film could, like, the back end makes me think of all the, like, the way they treated Stephen Lang and Spider. I'm like, that's interesting.
That's a cool dynamic. That was an interesting story.
And when she puts the fucking knife to Spider, stuff like that was the shit where I was like, ooh, yeah, this is some storytelling.
Yeah.
It's more just like the front, like, and so that's the thing, is I completely understand why James Cameron was like, I don't want to deal with all that other stuff. But it is very awkward, I think. I think it's a clunky way to do it, and I think there's more efficient ways to do it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, whatever, man.
You could I'm sorry, finish your sentence.
No. It's fucking Avatar, so.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, I see what you're saying. They could have just cut right to him raiding the train. We meet his two sons right there. He gets back to the village. We talk to Zoe Saldana and the two little ones, one of whom is Sigourney Weaver, and then the movie just goes from there. I don't know. I could see trimming it down a little bit just so that, because I do agree that opening, like I said, I was just sort of disoriented during that opening. So if you just start with the family unit already in the sort of version that it's going to be. Everybody's the age that they're going to be for the rest of the movie that's going to follow. I see. Yeah, that could have been a little bit more efficient.
I really think you could do an efficient story where you do the humans are back. They're in another part of the earth. Jake Sully doesn't want to investigate. Zoe Saldana does. And like there's a split that way, and then they go and they learn about the way of water, and when the whale stuff, like you could have them say, oh yeah, over here we can talk to the whales, and you actually introduce that concept, and you introduce like, this is what we're fighting for over here in Pandora. We're fighting for these whales. Like that's the new resource they're going after. I just think there's a less messy way to get the front of this movie to work, so we can get to a scene where a whale flops on a boat and goes and hits everybody, which was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen.
That whale goes apeshit, and it's great. The whale is funny. Punching people.
The arm scene was so funny. Oh,
I stood up. I was like,
that was
what?
So good.
I laughed so hard.
That was where I was like, okay, there's the James Cameron I know. That's the wacky, fucking weird, gruesome shit he does.
I mean, as soon as bullets and arrows started flying, I was like, there he is.
Yeah,
the movie is brutal. There's not any blood in it, really, but it's fucking brutal.
But the fighting is so good.
Yeah, and it's so good. Yeah. All the action is so awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Were you guys blown away by the visuals?
Yeah, honestly. I saw it in 3D. My normal complaint with 3D movies is that it's dark and I can't see anything. But
right.
And I understand that's an issue with like a lot of movies aren't necessarily filmed in 3D. They're just converted into 3D during post-production, and that's not the case for Avatar or this Avatar. But I didn't think the visuals were like a great leap forward, but like the detail in the performances that you can see, like in the facial performances of the characters, and also just how like the 3D wasn't loud. Do you know what I mean? Like it really did enhance the visuals instead of getting in the way of them.
That makes me want to have seen it in 3D. I didn't see it in 3D.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But yeah, in general, yeah, I thought it's not like a huge leap forward like the first one was. And we've just been watching just fucking orgies of CGI for the past decade since Avatar came out. So it's not, I didn't think the visuals look incredible in that sense, but like in the detail of the facial performances of the motion capture and the 3D and just the sort of the production design of stuff.
Yeah.
I thought this was a gorgeous movie.
Oh, it is. I was almost disappointed that because I had the same thing where I was like, oh, right, CGI is everywhere. So this is less impressive than the original.
Yeah.
But I bet if you put them back to back, like Adam, you watched them back to back. Was there a difference?
I actually found it kind of refreshing that a lot of this took place, like where they go, the Na'vi, encampment that they show up at. It doesn't look as fantastical as where they were in the first movie. It's still cool as shit.
Yeah.
Like there's one part where I don't remember where they were, but just even the thing they were walking on looked like this mesh shit. And I was like, is that real or is that CGI?
Right.
And I just like that wasn't such a focus in that second half. It's just like, even in the first half, like they spend so much time in the water, like it's just water.
Mm.
But I mean, when they go to like the spirit tree and things like that, it gets pretty fancy. But I actually found it kind of refreshing that there was just like brown and blue for most of it instead of what the last movie was.
I think James Cameron, it's the thing where it's like the visuals, like this feels like a early PS4 game versus a late PS4 game. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Where it's like, oh, it is more polished, like it's just such a slow progression that you don't notice it as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think James Cameron, of course, what makes it good is he's a good director. So like when a whale jumps on a ship, it doesn't feel stupid. It's silly. But like it's not it's handled with it's that awe-inspiring way to handle CGI.
Yeah, it's handled
like
with weight.
Yeah, like James Cameron is very good at that. So like when a Na'vi is like fighting a guy, that's normally something that I think I would roll my eyes at as being like a CGI mess.
Yeah, you feel those hits.
You feel it in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a good job.
The violence is not thrown away the way it is in Marvel movies.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like two cartoon characters punching each other.
exactly. And it's really cool to see. It's a nice reminder that CGI, it reminds me of how amazing CGI was when I first saw it in movies.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, right, you can do fucking anything with this. And it's very pretty.
I also love that there was a canceled whale who had his own little storyline and redemption arc. That was great. That went a long way toward making me like that whale element more, because I found that whole story fascinating. I was like, what did this guy do?
It would be
Did he say the N-word or something? What happened?
He learns his background, and it's just the whale doing a bunch of Dennis Miller jokes.
Yeah. He just said racist shit on Monday Night Football. He got canceled. No, but I liked that. I thought it was on theme, because that was sort of like the whole, like, it's like the whale, his mom was killed by these whalers, so he sort of got his clan, like all the people and all the whales, to go attack back, and it winds up getting them all killed in the process, and that's why he's banished. Right. And that, like, that's a little complex, because, like,
it's really cool.
Yeah, because, like, from where Jake's coming from and where Jake's son is coming from, like, that's like a noble thing to do, and like, but from the Water Clan's point of view, like, no, that's fucked up.
But the whale also to me seems like a very good example of the problem with the front, with the storytelling on the top end.
Yeah.
Because look at the whale in a vacuum is that, so what happens is that Jake Sully's son goes out with these guys and they go way too far. Like, they're trying to kill him. Essentially,
where they're ditching him, but yeah,
they're ditching him in the middle of the ocean.
It's pretty hardcore. It's pretty hardcore.
It's attempted murder.
Yeah,
a
fucking future shark shows up.
Yeah, and so a shark shows up.
That shark was on bath salts or something. That shark was out of its mind trying to eat him.
I love it when that's like me chasing, like, ripping my house apart to get a pee. You know, it's just like, Jesus Christ, shark, calm down.
That shark was fucking. They needed to call the police on that shark.
Yeah, but so the shark is attacking him, and then there's always a bigger fish, and the whale kills the shark, and we don't really know what the whale is at that point, because no one has said anything about it, really.
Yeah,
and so this whale comes out of nowhere, and then the kid wakes up on the whale. And the whale has saved him, and he's like, thank you, and starts talking to the whale, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? And then they say later, oh, that whale's an outcast, he's a killer. And the kid's like, no, he's not, he saved my life. So what you would do if you were writing something correctly, and I do think this is correctly, is that you would have, when they get there, someone say, like, oh, don't go out there, that killer whale is out there, he's a menace. You do The Sandlot, where it's like there's a legend of a whale that's a murderer, that's an outcast. And then you introduce it. Like, what they introduce the fucking whale, and then they have to explain everything about the whale. So, like, the moment where the whale shows up is just confusing at first, where you're like, wait, what's this whale? It's saving him? He's talking to the whale? Like, what you would do normally is you'd set up the outcast whale, the rules of the whale, and then have him get saved by the whale, where you think, oh, the whale's showing up, he's in trouble, and the whale turns out to be good. Like, that's how you would do it normally with storytelling, right? Is you would have the whale set up narratively before it just shows up.
Yeah, I don't think they were, in that scene, I don't think they were expecting that whale to be there.
Yeah.
Because when they talk about him seeing it, they talk about it like it's...
you guys are
kind of a surprise.
Narratively, you would have the whale mentioned in the movie before it shows up.
I mean, yeah.
I guess I feel like that's kind of splitting hairs. Like,
I don't think so at all.
Like, you can do it like, I don't know. You're not working on a car, man. Like, it's a movie. You can do it however you want as long as it works.
I think
I'm saying it didn't work.
Well, I mean, I was not confused about the whales after, a couple of scenes of that. I think it's harder to do, and it's riskier to do, and I think it's definitely more I guess, narratively correct to do it the way that you're describing, but there is
it's more
also
effective.
Well, there is also, they do this a lot in science fiction and fantasy too, so that you don't put people to sleep with a bunch of world building right off the bat, is they just throw you in. And then you sort of osmose what you need to learn after a couple of scenes. You're like, okay, all right, now I understand the rules of this now. And it's sort of like immersion as opposed to handing you all the exposition up front so you know exactly what that whale is when it shows up.
But the idea is that they immediately characterize the whale as an outcast. And we, the audience, immediately also know it's not an outcast, right?
Do we? It is an outcast.
But they say, like, it's a murderer. And he's like, no, it's not a murderer. It saved me. That's like a beat with the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we, the audience, kind of already know, yeah, you're right. Like, it's I'm trying to think of a better comparison.
By their definition of a murderer, he is a murderer.
Yeah, he kills that shark.
Yeah.
Right. What they're trying to do, though, is when you introduce an outcast character, you tend to show them first as the outcast, and then you show, there's something about that. They're not as bad as people are making them out to be. Like, that's the order of that character introduction.
Yeah.
If you're going for if you want the audience to feel a certain way about that whale, and I don't think James Cameron ever wanted us to feel anything but compassion for that whale.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think he never wanted. He never wanted to make the whale's character, like nature, a mystery to us. There's a little bit of it, but yeah, go ahead.
Was that whale kind of an asshole for killing that shark? That shark's just trying to eat.
Yeah, maybe. The whale is kind of an asshole. I mean,
that fucking Navi kid is in the ocean where the sharks are. And that is always going to be a risk.
The whale,
you get eaten by meth shark, but
he does get his whole clan killed trying to get revenge for his mother. Like, the whale is a little bit on tilt. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a character.
He's a scumbag whale. What do you want?
I want his movie.
He's only got 4 fins. He lost one of his fins.
He should have always been going in circles.
Yeah.
I'm really on tilt about this whale thing, though, because, for example, you just introduced something that would have been more significant had the whale been introduced earlier as a menace. If the idea that was like, don't go out there, there's this whale that's a menace out there, and then you meet him, and he immediately kills that shark, you're thinking like, oh, God, things are getting worse. And then the turn is that the whale's actually nice. I don't think what I'm saying is that weird. Like, it's very basic storytelling, and it could have been done in a very... Like, I just think that's what represents kind of the entire movie, which is that they introduce something, and it's confusing, and then they explain it, and then they explain stuff that I felt like could have gone before the thing was introduced.
But
that's kind of what the whale represents to me.
But I don't... I see what you're saying. I do. But it's kind of like, we got there anyway, so...
Yeah. But it's why I'd say my overall thought on this movie is that the first half is very confusing, and then the second half, everything is good. Because, yes, you're right. Once you get all the information, it's you're having a lot of fun. But it feels like they didn't quite figure out how to give us that information. Once we get it all, we're having fun, though.
I think people overthink stuff like this a little too much sometimes. Like, sometimes it's okay to not immediately know what's happening.
Sure.
And to be a little confused by it and have it explained later. I don't mind that in a movie.
But at the start of this, you guys both said this movie was okay, right?
Well, I said I liked the second half a whole lot.
Yeah,
right.
I said it was fine and that I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to identify why the second half is the better part and why it's just a kind of okay.
Because of the arm scene.
The arm scene. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just inherently more exciting. Like, there is so much happening, and it's like pedal to the metal for the entire end of the movie.
Yeah, I also just think it was written better in the better half. I think the first half is messy and weird. And like, there's so many concepts that they can't cram them all in. And it's just very confusing and weird. So like, yeah, that's just my thoughts on this and why the second half is so much better than the first half.
I don't know. The first half was an Avatar movie, and the second half was fucking Battle Smurfs.
It was pretty sweet.
that, all of that stuff is what I will remember about this movie. It's
Same here. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
But it's so good that I don't know, I can forgive the first half of the movie. Like, it wasn't my favorite part, but the second half is so good that I don't know. I like this so much better than the first Avatar movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is it's so much better. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I came into this movie not caring particularly about Avatar, and then like I'm invested in it by like the end of the first hour. Like by the time Act 2 rolls around, I'm like, I'm invested in this goofy little family.
Yeah,
well,
I want to know what
because
happens with Dreadlock Kid and his fake dad.
It hooked me enough that I would go see the next Avatar in theaters.
Yeah,
And
absolutely,
that going into this is not a thing I expected to say.
He did. So I think what he did that made it work so well in terms of a sequel is like you look at the first Avatar and it's like, what is the real struggle there? It's Pocahontas. It's like, oh, we're in love, but you're part of you're the natives. We're the invading aliens.
Yeah, it's the conservationists
and Stephen Lang
and
is
the
bad.
question of loyalty and thing. Yeah,
and it's just like, and we fight the bad guy, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so when it ends, you don't really care about a sequel, and I think that's why most people didn't care. This one really is. It's introducing all these complicated ideas. Like I'm not entirely sure Stephen Lang will be the bad guy by the end.
I don't think he might not be.
Yeah, but also he might be, and I don't know. And I really like that I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that, like, it feels that, again, why I kind of wish this was a TV show, is like it's introducing these kind of moral cliffhangers and character cliffhangers that make me really want to know where the story is heading.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's not like the mystery box stuff. There is the element of like what's going on with Kiri, but that's like not the only thing that's got me interested about her or about any other characters.
Right. The ultimate mystery box is, of course, what will somebody do?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
What will a character do?
Yeah.
And so that's what they're doing. It's like an HBO show where you're like, shit, what's Tony Soprano? How is he going to react to that news?
Yeah.
I have to watch the next one. It's a lot of that where it just feels like he knew not to just be like, ooh, look, it's our Thanos. And it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like it is so character based by the end. And I was so happy about that.
Yeah. I think he generally does do that. Well, I think Avatar is the original Avatar is one of the only films where I didn't really get that, because there's a bunch of like, I know there's a huge cast of characters in that first movie, but like that movie doesn't feel as character focused as a lot of his other movies are. And this one feels a lot more like the other ones, like his other movies.
I think Avatar is going to get that thing right where people go, actually, it's underrated. Because they grew up with it.
Underrated. It made $3 billion.
I know, but you know what I mean.
Grossing film
you know what I mean is you see that all the damn time.
Yeah,
where people, and we're gonna get that pushback. And I maintain Avatar is not very good. It's not very good. It's his worst movie.
Yeah, I've seen it 2 or 3 times. It's definitely my least favorite movie of his. I wasn't a fan of it. So like, yeah, that's, as I said, going into this movie, I was just like, I have no expectation for the story. I'm not an Avatar fan. Let's see what happens. By the time this movie ended, I'm like, I want to see fucking Avatar 3. Give it to me now.
Yeah.
See, I like to hear that, because coming out of this movie, I actually found myself wondering if I went into the first Avatar just so jaded toward it already that I was just a little too hard on it.
No,
but it seems like everyone I've run that by is like, no,
I don't think you are. Like
sucks.
the reason I've seen Avatar more than once is because I rewatched it with that in mind. Like I was like, well, maybe I was just. Maybe I was wanting to dislike the movie, or maybe I was too hard in it. Let me give it another shot. And each time I give it another shot, it's like, yeah, there's cool stuff in it, but it's like mostly boring.
It's mostly boring. It's
like,
extremely dull.
I don't care.
Then I'm not going back, but I will go see Avatar 3. Yes. Absolutely.
I like this.
Yeah.
It just felt like it took 1.5 movies to get there. Because I would still argue the first half of this, the characters aren't particularly complex either, and they don't do the work they could do, where it's Jake Sully like, I want to protect my family. And it's like, oh, they're kind of, ooh, she kind of doesn't like Spider because he's a human. But nothing really happens based on that. She doesn't do much about that. Or
she does almost kill him.
No, what I'm saying is in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
She's not she never does anything or is mean to him. He just sort of says that in narration, and she says one thing which is I don't think they should play together, but it doesn't amount to anything. And so I would say the first movie and the first half of this, character wise, they don't really do much, and then it just goes nuts. It explodes in the second half.
There is one thing,
and so that's why my feeling is where was this the whole goddamn series?
Yeah, there is one thing. She doesn't save Spider when she could have, and that's how he gets captured. Right. But yeah, I think I agree. The characters are basic, but I think I don't know. By the end of
they're not by the end.
Not by the end. Yeah, but
it's like someone else wrote the second half to me. That's why I'm so focused on it. Where I'm the second half should have been the whole movie to me. And it should have been the movie before it. And I don't understand why it wasn't.
I don't know. This is a clumsy start, maneuvering his pieces into position. And then he fucking goes hog wild in the end. Whale wild, excuse me.
Whale wild.
And it is great.
It's pretty fucking great.
I might see this again.
Gonna wait. I'm honestly going to wait to streaming and watch it only the second half, I feel like.
Well, Tom describing the 3D makes me want to see it.
Oh, did you not?
3D.
Oh, you guys should have seen it in 3D.
I saw it.
You might as well. I figured, that's another thing. I figured this was going to be the only time I watched this movie. So I was like, well, I want to see it in 3D because I never saw the original in 3D, and I always heard what an experience it was. So
the original was good in 3D,
let me watch this one and let me get my one and done so I can slap them glasses on my face and let's do it. And it was great.
Yeah, I might have to do it.
Having seen the original in 3D, I didn't watch it in 3D because it's not that I don't like 3D. It's that I don't want to put anything on my face to watch a movie. Does that make sense? Where I don't get enough out of 3D to keep something on my face for the entire movie.
I'm used to wearing glasses. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think glasses are better now anyway. They might be the exact same, but it doesn't. I don't know. I remember them being real cumbersome in 2009, 2010. But that might just be me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm very curious about this third one. But still overall, I think that it's exactly 1/3 of the entire Avatar series I find good so far. And that's not that much, which is why overall I think this movie is fine. Because I think the first half I was bored. The first half, before we got to the whale shit, I was like, I want to leave. I want to get out of here. I was so fucking bored. And it really makes up for it at the end. It's
definitely the point in the movie where I'm like, why is this 40 minutes longer than the last one? Because when I saw that the first one was I can't believe I'm going to say this, only 2 hours and 40 minutes, I was like, this isn't going to be as bad as I thought.
I thought sweat off your brow.
These movies were all 3 hours plus, and then I see that the next one is 40 minutes longer. And I was like, oh no. And yeah, it's that opening part is where those 40 minutes probably could have been cut.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really easy fixes.
Sure.
I think what it comes down to is James Cameron is a little self-indulgent, and he has every right to be because he's James Cameron. But I do think we kind of suffered for it a little bit. I'm just surprised at how clumsy his storytelling was for the first half. Personally, I think there's a lot of bad writing in the first half.
Yeah, it's Titanic has that problem.
Yeah,
it's not new to James Cameron, but I see it. I wasn't bored with it like you guys were, but I do recognize that it's a little clunky. Could have been a little less so.
I really did I know it's because there was a ship going down, But when that started happening, like when you first see it starting to sink, I was like, oh, this is a Titanic sequel. I love it. I'm so excited for this.
You thought I was
Titanic could've
done
used
with
some Navi.
boats?
Because I've seen James Cameron sink a boat before, and it looked very neat.
And it was
And
awesome.
I was like, oh, here we go. Hell yeah.
I was surprised by, so there's so much media coming out with like several actors being like, I learned how to hold my breath for 5 minutes to make this movie. And watching it, I can't figure out why. I think James Cameron just wanted to do diving classes because he liked them. Like, the last time I heard that was the Mission Impossible, where Tom Cruise learned to hold his breath for 5 minutes. And that's because he had to do a oneer where he's underwater. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. There's no like extended long shots in this that require learning to hold your breath for long periods of time. So I'm almost certain they were just having fun in a pool while making this one.
Even when you have like a 30-second shot, you still have to swim, get into position, and then start the scene. So
For sure, but you still don't have to learn to hold your breath for 5 minutes.
no, I bet it helps.
Like The Abyss, they didn't do it. It helps. That's what I mean, is I think it's like James Cameron being like, I'm not going to almost drown another actor.
Yeah.
We are all taking like extended diving lessons, so I don't have to deal with your bullshit. Like, it felt like it was that, where he's just like, I don't want any whiners. I don't want any Ed Harrises on set here. So you're all learning to become fucking Aquaman, and then you'll do what I say.
Yeah, and it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I
I feel like we should wrap. We don't want to do a 3 hour and 20-minute podcast. So
No,
Yeah, I was
I
just
don't have
going to
that
say,
much
should we
thoughts.
just run through the beats of each film in chronological
Scene
order
by
in their
scene,
entirety
scene by
Yeah,
scene.
before we get out of here?
Yeah.
I got 7 hours before I have to start getting tired. It'll
Yeah.
be fine. Before I have to start getting tired? What?
No, we can be done. We can be done.
Yeah. I think my final thoughts on this is just that there's so much hype and so many years that this was fun. It was fine. It doesn't need to be the greatest film of all time. No one expected it to be.
Mm-mm.
But I don't think this if this did just okay in the box office, like that would be what it deserves, in my opinion. Like, this movie shouldn't have cost so much money that it has to be the biggest film of all time. You know what I mean? Where, like, if
I
you're
argue
gonna
no
do
movie
that,
should cost that much.
yes, exactly. And this apparently costs so much that it needs to be in like the top 5 highest grossing movies. And I would argue then make a movie worthy of that. And I just don't think this is there writing wise.
I
Much
knew
like
this
the
was
first
going to
Avatar.
happen.
There's a
Oh,
cat.
there's a
There's
cat. There's
in
a
Adam's
cat.
screen.
Yeah. Catatar.
Aw,
Baby
Catatar.
kitty. I knew
He should
this
have
was
had them
gonna
more
happen.
Avatabby.
cat-like. Yeah.
No, that kind of
Oh,
works.
why would you have the fucking feral spider kid on the bridge of your ship? They kept like
'Cause he's
bringing
trying to make him
they're
his
like,
son.
"You're our-" Yeah, and he failed so
He
hard.
really did. He wrecks that ship. Yeah.
Yeah,
You live by the feral kid, et cetera, et cetera.
you die by the feral. Yeah, you live
Yep.
by the spider. You die from the spider.
Trying to be
Kid-
his fake dad.
I heard people referring to him as Spider on the internet, and I was like, "Oh, that's like a joke name for the character. I can't wait to know what his real name is." And then they're like, "This is Spider. He's our dirtbag friend.
Yep.
He's gonna sell you weed and then not leave."
Yep.
And it's like, hey, Spider.
He really did look like Lil Wayne,
Yeah.
and I loved that.
Oh,
like,
shit.
just-
All right. Yeah.
Just
What a
cast
character.
Lil Wayne, you cowards.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. He's supposed to
Okay,
be a
yeah, my
teenager.
cat
It
is-
doesn't matter. DH him.
My cat is making my life miserable right now.
Okay, well, we can be
Adam.
done. Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for being on here. Do you want to plug anything? You have something to tell the world?
Hey, thanks for having me. Yes, I am writing again after taking years off from doing that. So go to adamtoddbrown.substack.com and give me money for words.
Give Adam money.
Give Adam money
Yeah.
for his words. Word money.
Yeah. Word money.
Lots of recaps of The Voice on there, but also, more
Other
important things. Yeah.
Good. All right. I'll tell people about our Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. GAMEFULLY unemployed. For just $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. We watch movies every Friday night with our patrons as well. And there's a bunch of other stuff on there, so check it out.
Yeah, we also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So get your little blue cat faces, your little peepers and your blue cat faces, slap them on that site. Do that.
Yeah.
Get your
Little
whale
kids.
peepers. Get your dual whale peepers on that site.
They had 2 eyes on each side.
Yeah, they had 4 eyes.
Why?
Yeah.
They're so close together.
They're big. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wider field of
fine.
vision.
Yeah,
you
just
think
have
they could
bigger
have
eyes.
spaced them out a little more, though.
Yeah, come on, whales. Have
Yeah.
like backup cameras. You know?
Put them on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Like
a
a fucking
back full of
Toyota.
eyes.
Oh,
The back
ass eyes.
covered in eyes.
Gross.
I love it.
Ivatar. Okay.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. That's the end of the episode, right?
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.